Even though this series of videos is really meant to look at gi applications of forearm torque, we're going to start with a specific example, a case study really, demonstrating forearm torque without the gi, because it will provide a really rich set of context that will help you understand what's to come. So this specific case study is Garry Tonon versus Gordon Ryan at the 2019 ADCC. And this is an application of a one-armed rear naked choke. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so first I'm going to demonstrate the one-armed rear naked choke, and then I'm going to take a look at the specific way that it played out in Gary's match with Gordon. So once again, whenever I can connect my hand to my opponent, the connection creates a fulcrum. The rotation of my forearm around the fulcrum generates leverage. Because Shivang's head is between my hand and my elbow, I can generate compression strangling force by bringing my elbow to his shoulder. And you can see that the range of motion involved is almost imperceptible. It's very, very efficient. So when people talk about efficiency in jiu-jitsu, this is sort of an example of efficiency. So let's take a look at the specific matching question, and we're going to start here. I'm glad that Shivang agreed to be my uke because it's almost impossible for me to figure for anyone else, but Shivang is quite significantly smaller than me, so I can actually make this lock. Garry is initially concerned with dealing with this body lock, and what happened is that Gordon captures this top arm, okay, and brings it behind his back into this straitjacket position. This is a really important inflection point in the match, because at the moment that this top arm is captured, Garry knows that this arm is going to come in. So his immediate reaction is to connect his chin to his shoulder here, thereby defending this inside space. So as a matter of fact, you're going to tuck it in even deeper. Yeah. So making it impossible for me to connect a fulcrum. No fulcrum, no lever, no finish. So this is very, very, very good defense on Gary's part. So Gordon tries a couple of things to open up this inside space. Gordon's goal, remember, is to connect to this fulcrum. But if Garry is fighting for this inside space, he can't. So Gordon first tries to chisel under, can't make a breakthrough. He tries to pull this space open. Now you can see it open. So this is where the fulcrum would go, but Garry brings it back. So finally, Gordon manages to chisel under, and now he has this connection. Think of this as like, I'll sit you up for a second, like a little knot that I'm burrowing in here. So he makes an initial connection and tests it, but he's not feeling it because there's not enough tension in the system. He digs it in a little bit deeper, tries again, and he's not feeling it. Finally, he brings it in really deep, and almost imperceptible movement of the elbow to the shoulder, Garry is finally forced to tap. What's really interesting about the last seconds of this match is at the moment that Gordon has this final finishing position and the elbow starts to come across, Garry looks away from the fulcrum and desperately tries to bring Gordon over to the other side. And what would happen then is that if he could have brought Gordon's elbow to the mat, there is no more choke because I no longer have runway for my elbow. Can you see that? I can't bring my elbow to the shoulder because the ground is in the way. But in the actual match, Gordon was just too strong, and Garry couldn't quite make this turn to deleverage this arm. So a couple of important technical notes about the one-armed RNC, which will become important later when we flip over to the gi strangles. So with this particular finish, you'll notice one thing I'm not doing is I'm not squeezing. I'm not trying to squeeze the shit out of Shivang's neck using isometric squeezing. Instead, I'm using leverage to get the finish. So generally speaking, I don't favor isometric squeezing because it results in a net energy dump in the sense that when you're isometrically squeezing, there is no mechanical advantage. That's just you expending your muscular strength with no mechanical advantage. So it is possible against someone who sucks to finish by isometrically squeezing, but no one good will ever tap to you squeezing their neck. It's just, they won't. So in addition, the effort in isometrically squeezing his neck is just going to fry my arms. And, you know, especially nowadays, if like for the, I don't know, the blue belt adults, you might have to win 7 matches just to get on the podium. So you want to save energy as much as possible. And if you're constantly squeezing people, it's just going to drain your battery. The other thing that is really important to understand about this position is my shoulder and bicep perform a very important function, whereas this is the fulcrum. The forearm is the lever. Now, if Shivang were to try to turn away from my hand here, my forearm and shoulder, my bicep and shoulder are blocking him from moving away. So, whereas my forearm is the lever, my shoulder and bicep are the wedge, holding everything in place. And that's one way to take the leaks out of this system. Generally speaking, the leaks are going to go away from the hand. And if Shivang moves away from my hand, it will be harder to finish. My shoulder and bicep are what keep his head in place via a wedge-like mechanic. And now very little movement will get the finish because the shoulder and bicep take the leaks out of the system. By the way, if you're interested in that particular finish, John Danaher's Back Attacks DVD on Fanatics is excellent, and it goes into that and much, much more. What I think is so interesting, or when I first started trying that technique, I had a lot of early success with it. I still do. But the first thought in my mind is, man, this is awesome. I wish I could use this motor pattern for all of the gi collar strangles. And then I thought, well, wait a second. Am I supposed to be using this motor pattern for gi collar strangles? And that kind of swirled around in my head for a long time. And then finally, I had a breakthrough with my gi strangles, which we'll talk about next. Okay. Man, it is cold.